Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace?
Do
I say it? Do you say it?
You say it.
Okay.
You say it. You got it. You got it. We did it.
Nailed
A
it.
collective effort. We are here again. And you're going to notice something. Our little buddy is not here right now.
Crazy.
Jared is, I mean, he's a little low to the ground as it is, so I don't want to say he's ducking much. Feel like he's naturally ducking a lot of things. But I don't know that I have ever seen an actual trade put a man on an airplane to scamper away from his reality. And unfortunately, it feels like that's what we have here today. We have a lot to get to. Some very magnitudinal moments have taken place here just over the course of the last 48 hours or so.
Whole rundown
baseball.
Changed.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that, you know, a marquee player like this, Jayhay, getting moved at a time like this. And when I say time like this, I'm talking the Red Sox in the middle of a heater. In the middle of a heater, the Red Sox having, what was it, 5 out of 6 from the pinstripes? Starting to make a little headway. Maybe I don't want to call it a bounce back, but I mean, like, they were showing a little life. Showing a little life, Jayhay.
They sure were. And I just want to say for the record that when, you know, Cleveland let Manny Ramirez walk, I showed up for the pod. When they let Jim Tomei walk, I showed up for the pod. When they traded CC Sabathia, where was I, D? I showed up.
You're right here.
I did not duck this podcast. So Lindor, same deal. So just wanted that on the record.
Well, yeah. And I mean, for me, for instance, you know, it's one thing to have a player leave town, right? I showed up on the podcast when I was told my entire team was leaving town. So it's one thing to have like one player, you know, and how about an entire franchise? How about that?
Right? Honestly, though, how about the swing of emotions from sweeping the New York Yankees and feeling like you are probably riding more momentum than you have at any point this season?
Maybe a year or two.
Yeah, since the fake momentum of signing Alex Bregman. Right?
Bregman, yes.
Yeah, or the Garrett Crochet extension. Yeah,
no, that was real momentum, Jayhay. That was real momentum. You were going and getting a marquee player to play a marquee position.
I just meant that these are real wins, right?
Oh, and yes.
Yeah, they swept the Yanks in pretty, you know, not like overly dramatic fashion, but like we're talking 2 1-run games and a 2-run game. So each game was extremely entertaining on the whole, very, very tense. Yeah, for sure. And so like you feel like you're in a certain spot. Devers specifically delivers in the Sunday game. And then, you know, it's like the game is over and the announcement is that he's been traded to the Giants. I don't have a short list of the most shocking trades to me personally, because like ultimately who really cares? But like this is on that short list, right? That I saw it and it was one of those things that I do very rarely, which is this real? Is this a real trade? Like I turned to my wife and I was like, hey, it says Devers we were just about to go into dinner. I was like, hey, Devers has been traded. She's like, who's reporting it? And I was like, it's Robert Murray. That's the first one I saw. I think that's who Underdog attributed it to. Like, and he's broken plenty of things before. So I was like, I think this is real. I think this is happening.
Dude, I felt like the Godfather sitting down like on the day of his daughter's wedding and like players on the airplane, like one by one are coming back to me and they're like, bro, is this shit real?
Yeah.
Did this really, like, what is going on? What happened? And they're like, bro, what happened? What happened behind closed doors? How did we get here? And that's what's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, that's ground covered almost because, you know, it's clear that the bridge was burned and maybe, you know, I think there'd been speculation about to what degree the relationship had been damaged. And the answer appears to be to the degree that they needed or wanted to trade him away.
I hate to drop it. I told you so.
No, you did. You said this. Yeah.
I mentioned that there was irreparable damage. Irreparable damage had been done. He had felt betrayed and he had felt misled to an extent where you were not going to repair the relationship. And that was obvious and evident when there was an opportunity for Devers to maybe take a higher road and say, you know what, I want to be a team guy or I'll do whatever I need to do to be the team guy. And in fact, what he did is he spit in the face of that notion and said, you go find a first baseman.
Yeah.
Because you ain't finding one here. I'm not your dude. Like the way that you've lied to me and deceived me, like the places of comfort that he was able to go to before in the past, if things were kind of bubbling up, in fact, he found no comfort in those places. He felt like he was left out in the cold all alone. So what would a player of his caliber do in a moment like this? Well, he did what I think you would want to see any good player do, Jayhay, and as he put his head down and he started to get back to work. And I mean, Devers, I don't know that you could. I mean, pretty good go at it thus far. No.
Oh, absolutely, no question. He's delivered. You know, if you're just talking about what has he produced on the field, he has delivered his end so far. Like, and I have said what I've said about how Devers responded to the ask for the position switch, the multiple times ask, and my opinions on that haven't really changed. I still think that was not handled correctly on his end, but the net out of this for the team is that there's been such a, and I know this is just about Devers, but the bigger picture is that there's been such a talent bleed in terms of these magnitudinal transactions. So Mookie Betts and Rafael Devers, that they have sent franchise cornerstones, and now I think Mookie is on a different level than Devers, but they still qualify for that moniker, out the door, and received, in the case of Mookie Betts, as little as you can possibly receive. We now know that. And in Rafael Devers, a package that was like, you didn't have to be a Boston homer to be incredibly underwhelmed with the package that was returned here. And I don't think that's disrespectful to Kyle Harrison or Jordan Hicks, who are not totally uninteresting, but are a shockingly blah return for a guy who has been, a top 10, a top 15 hitter in baseball so far this season offensively. And it just reeks of, this is obvious, but it needs to be said. It reeks of, we want to get off of this money and we want to get off of this person that we don't feel like I saw some reporting that they felt like a guy with a $300 million contract should have been more amenable to being a team player in those situations where he was asked to make those changes. To what degree that's true, I don't know, but like it's true enough that they traded him for a resoundingly mediocre talent package.
I mean, and doesn't this signify like a big time culture shift?
100%
in that franchise. I mean, this
culture
is
shift,
a huge
time reset, right?
Absolutely, this is a huge shift of the landscape in the franchise of the Boston Red Sox, and the fact that we're talking about Jordan Hicks as part of the return, a guy who has been bounced out of the rotation back into the bullpen. He said it himself. I haven't performed. I don't deserve that opportunity any longer. Maybe down the road, that's something we can we can re-entertain. And the fact of Kyle Harrison, a guy who, not throwing the ball very well as of right now out of the rotation for the Giants. He was in the bullpen when he got called back up, pitched his way back into the rotation. I think it's an ERA right around 5 over his last 18 innings or so for Kyle Harrison. And then Jose Bayo and a former, last year's first round pick, James Tibbs III. And I think what that signifies is Buster Posey having an understanding of, you know what? First rounders, they're great. We pay them a lot of money. They don't always pan out. And if that's going to be the case here, we'll wait and see down the line if James Tibbs III is somebody who does in fact move the needle for a franchise, but he's not going to be moving the needle for their franchise.
Yeah. And I think I know we'll get to the Giants part of it in a second, which I think is just as interesting, if not more interesting, but like the Red Sox side, I would be okay with the idea of moving Rafael Devers and the $250 or so million that remains on his contract, because you've evaluated that we're not necessarily all that interested in paying what we think is a DH, $250 million over a long period of time. I'm okay with that. And I think there was multiple mentions of in the articles. Now, consider where this information is coming from, but the term underwater was used in multiple read-ups that I did on this contract or on the trade, referencing the Devers contract, that internal projections for a lot of teams had that as an underwater contract, paying that much money to Devers as a DH moving forward. That being said, I would feel much better about it if I thought that the savings were going to go towards players that are better long-term investments or make the team substantially better. Whereas I think it's more likely that they just kind of streamlined their investment. And while I'm not saying that they won't invest anything moving forward, I don't think this is going to be like, I saw Kyle Tucker tossed around as like, oh, damn, I wish, where's.
How about that? You like that? Coffee from the clouds?
Yeah, wait, where's mine? Okay. I don't like, if it was Kyle Tucker was mentioned as like, what if they turn around and sign? Yeah, great. If they turn around and sign Kyle Tucker, we'll do that podcast and we'll have that conversation. But nobody really thinks that's going to happen, right? So instead, I think they probably just got worse and less expensive and maybe got off a liability down the road. But I also think it's almost the responsibility of teams in that market size and at that prestige level to be okay with a contract that might be slightly underwater according to your metrics and your projections, but is still for a player who we all acknowledge is really good and would be helpful to winning baseball games in the present, right?
Jayhay, is there any thought that Alex Bregman, with this culture change here, has a bit of a better relationship maybe with the front office as it sits right now today than Rafael Devers ever had? You know where I'm going with this. Is there any chance that Alex Bregman could maybe help have that conversation, help the recruiting process of one Kyle Tucker, and maybe you turn him in to the Boston Red Sox? But maybe that's something that happens.
But what value is the recruiting pitch from Alex Bregman if the team is not willing to offer an amount of money that is competitive in the market? But
that's why I bring up the relationship that maybe Alex Bregman has already cultivated with the front office as well as the manager. And look, it's no secret that Alex Bregman and Alex Cora have a very, very good relationship and have had a very good and tight relationship for a long time. And if the relationship with the ownership and the manager is something that was speculated to be irreparable at a certain point in time, and you have the player who essentially came in, and Alex Bregman didn't create this himself. His presence may have created this because individuals charged with handling it on a much better level did not do so, but he did not create any of this. His presence and his ability, if you want to say that, I'll give you that. But this is not his doing. But now that he's there and he has the relationship that he has, if this is a culture shift, Jay, we just watched a franchise turn away and trade a guy who they had locked up for 10 years, over $300 million worth of commitments made to this individual. And because it had soured so quickly, gone.
I just wonder, since you brought up Bregman, and then I guess we can get to the Giants side, I wonder if they explore the opposite direction, which is if this is where this team is going. I know they're on a win streak and I know they just swept the Yankees. I'm not the one who turned around and traded Rafael Devers coming off of that though. So they feel a certain way. Maybe they can stay in the race. Maybe this is still a wild card team. I'm not saying they can't still be a wild card team, but if they're taking the longer view, the medium term view, I do wonder, particularly given the contract structure of Alex Bregman, what the rest of his season looks like, because he's currently injured, right? And if it makes sense for him to opt out by the end of the season, or if we're trending in that direction, or if that's a risk they don't want to take, then I wonder if he's a trade asset for them leading up to the deadline as well. If he's playing.
But wouldn't what he's able to put together once he's back, that's going to make the impact. That's going to create his market for him, right?
Yep.
I don't want to say that
it's a tough spot. Yep.
Yeah, you don't ignore what he's done up to this point. But after a lull in production, after some downtime, especially after the injury, when he comes back, from that point, it's really just going to be about proving to himself that he's healthy, proving to everybody else that he's healthy. And I don't know that unless the production is otherworldly, just eye-popping numbers for the second half or whatever it's going to be. Teams have an idea of who he is, but you need a real idea of who he's going to be moving forward. And that's what the second half could show. I think it's just a sad state of affairs if we are talking about a franchise that had penciled in a guy for the next decade to be their star third baseman, And then the rug gets pulled on him like a fucking meme coin. And now he's just like, oh, I guess I'm going to San Francisco. I guess it's splashdown time.
And tough turn of events ultimately, I think, for the Red Sox mostly because Devers still gets his money and he's going to a team that is more than competitive at the moment. And like, let you down to talk Giants now.
Let's talk it.
So I think it's very interesting on a number of levels. It's very clear that the front office, Buster Posey, whatever we're calling him at this point, he has been given a level of autonomy and a level of ability to absorb dollars that is, I mean, unprecedented in recent Giants history, if not the entire history of the franchise. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you, right? And
this is Buster saying, we got a player out there available. I like what this player brings to the table. I know what we have stocked in the coffers. I know what they're willing to bite on, and I know what direction I need us to head as a group right now. We've got a platinum defender over there in Matt Chapman, who's going to be out for a month plus. Don't know how long that's going to last. We need to plug that hole with some immediacy. I've got a left-handed bopper who I have loved since I watched him enter the league, and I need to plug him in right here, right now. Why? Because what will this do? This will show that group in that clubhouse in San Francisco that the general manager in the front office is watching and that they are willing to make a commitment to this team. They are willing. If you continue to perform, if you can keep this race kind of where it's at right now and you can continue to make noise, we will supplement. We're fucking 2 games out of this thing. We are a great series against the Hollywood juggernauts away from writing off after that series in first place. We're 2 ball games out. We own the top wild card. Like, what are we talking about?
For sure. And I think, whether they ultimately win the division or get there through the wild card, they're in absolutely a buyer spot. And there's nothing about their roster that suggests they should be waiting for a different moment to strike, right? Like the time is very much now. And, you can quibble about Rafael Devers' long-term value and all the sort of stuff that the numbers told the Red Sox probably to get off the contract, but he unequivocally makes them better and fills a need, an immediacy need right now, because whether you look at this season or the last half decade, 5-season sample, Rafael, he's 15th in weighted runs created this season. He's 11th in OPS this season. He's tied for 14th in weighted runs created over the 21 to 25 stretch, and he's tied for 9th in OPS. So he's something like just as a purely offensive player, he is something like a top 10 to top 15 bat. And that's kind of been proven out over time. And this team, he immediately becomes, I think without question, the best offensive force on this team. And that's a really cool thing to be able to add to a club that currently sits 10 games above 500 with a 2-3 chance to make the playoffs according to Fangraphs right now. Like it's just, and it's what they need, right? Like they're, regardless of what metric you look at, slugging, weighted runs created, I could rattle them all off. They're 23rd, 20th, whatever it is in baseball in those stats. So he fits what they need on paper, and I don't know why it wouldn't translate.
No, and I mean, you go and look at what the Giants were getting out of their third base spot with Chappie, right? A 243 average, 360 on base, 452 slug, good for an 812 OPS. And then I know a lot of conversation was like, well, they have Matt Chapman. No, they don't. And that's why this move was made, is Matt Chapman is injured. Well, is third base and DH going to be the only option for Raffy? Well, maybe, but they also need a little help over at first base. They've been platooning Dom Smith, who I think for all intent and purposes up to this point has been fine for them. And Wilmer Flores.
And I think that's actually like one of the most interesting immediate questions is because I don't think I've seen any official comment from the Giants about he will be playing this position or it will be this sort of split. I've seen speculation from beat writers and stuff like that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I found it interesting that the Giants would take this position. And now call me crazy here, but the Giants have said, you know what? We're going to talk to the player first. We're going to talk to the player before we make any sort of like public statements or take any sort of public stance on what this guy does. We're we're going to have a little feel for how these things go. And instead of telling the world what we expect this guy to do, we're going to talk to him and we're going to see how he's feeling about certain things. Because what we want to do is make sure that after bringing a player in who feels rejected, who feels misled and betrayed and deceived, the best thing you could do, the best thing we could do is just communicate with this marquee talent. Why wouldn't we do that? We're bringing this guy in to make us better, and he could probably make us better in a few different ways. I think we should communicate with him on how that's going to look before we just pencil him into a position that he might not be comfortable playing. But I got to believe, Jayhay, that with a change of scenery and in an environment where you feel like you're wanted, where you feel like you've been sought after for a reason, and those reasons are only going to grow once your teammates get used to you, man, I got to feel like this is a guy who's going to tell us at some point in time that, Jayhay, he's willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win.
Well, and what a layup for the Giants, too, to make sure to throw that into all the copy, that they were going to be sure to talk to the player before they made a final decision. I mean, easiest call in the world.
Just doing business.
Yeah, at this point, if you're running a competent organization, it does seem like third base or DH will be, or maybe a split there will be the answer. But yeah, we're waiting on official word from where that'll be. I do think, like, the trickle down effect here, or one of them possibly, is that, you brought up Dom Smith, Wilmer Flores could move into something more of a platoon, depending on where they put Devers. I think that's ultimately probably something that makes sense for a team with significant aspirations, as this team does.
Well, it gives them a nice little rotation in that spot too, right?
No doubt.
You can pencil in Rafi, 6 out of the 7 days a week, and if he needs a half blow, then he goes to DH. I mean,
well, here's the other exciting thing about the Giants too, is that, like, you basically, again, no real disrespect to Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison and Tibbs, but it seems like the equity that they traded to get Rafael Devers was mostly about the willingness to take on all of the remaining money on Devers' contract. So what that leaves the Giants moving forward, you would think, is still an ability to tap into the farm system to improve other parts of their roster if they're so inclined moving forward. Like, this may be the only move, and I won't, like, if it is, then, whatever, it's a massive move, no criticism here, but, like, it does seem like that it was largely financial and doesn't really take away from pieces that were contributing to the 2025 Giants. Maybe gives them flexibility to make additional moves here.
And pieces that will hopefully continue to contribute. I mean, like, they are extremely, I'm talking Jerry Garcia, I'm talking Snoop Dogg high on Hayden Birdsong.
Yeah.
Extremely high on Hayden Birdsong, and for good reason. I mean, you look what Landon Roop has done, Carson Whisenhunt, and I'm not telling you that, Landon Roop is going to be the future. He's throwing the ball well, man.
Yeah.
And I think when you take a look at a Logan Webb, a Robbie Ray, a Roop, a Birdsong, I mean, there's a lot to like about what that group is going to be capable of, or you think that group can provide for you. So what do you got to do? You got to supplement what you're getting there on the mound with some offensive punch. And that's exactly what this does.
It's also kind of cool. This is maybe more subjective, but also like a real thing. Is this the biggest left-handed power that's taking aim at McCovey Cove since Bonds?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
That's kind of cool. Cause it's very hard to hit in San Francisco generally. And really post Bonds, the McCovey Cove splashdown has been like kind of a thing, but Bonds used to pepper, right? And this could be the greatest quote unquote assault on McCovey Cove that we've seen since in 20 years, right?
Sure. And I'm glad you brought that up, because now I start to think about, I'll be interested to take a look at the second half overlay of balls in play, comparatively speaking, because his approach, right? And we've seen this with Willy Adames, right? A guy who had no problem powering the ball the other way, driving the ball out of the ballpark the other way. And if you're somebody who can do that, you start to gear your approach for that. And that's a wonderful approach to have, is use the big part of the field, let the ball travel. If I can hammer it and hit the ball off my belly button and even a little further, I'm seeing the ball a long time. I'm giving myself a great chance to get to the baseball and deploy competitive swings. But if that part of the ballpark is no longer paying dividends, I might have to start thinking about shifting my approach. I might have to start thinking about getting out in front and clipping balls a little earlier, maybe a little pull side emphasis. And I mean, for Willie Adames, there's been a ton of pop ups and talking to folks around the organization. A lot of that has to do with Willie Adames trying to dip back into pull side pop because he's just not getting paid hitting the ball the other way because there is a chasm out there in right field. They call it Triples Alley for a reason. Because if you do get the ball down between the center fielder and right fielder out there, you can run for fucking 3 days. Have at it. So if Devers, who has made a lot of good money, pounding the ball off that left field wall that's about 185 feet away, is that approach going to change? Is that approach going to be something that pays off? Is his power going to negate Triples Alley and render it a moot point? That's all going to be interesting to me to see how he adjusts to that and how pitchers start to attack him early. Because I think that will be what he needs to pay attention to is not what I'm doing here, but am I being attacked differently in this ballpark than I have been attacked at home in other places?
I also think it's fascinating because going from Fenway to San Francisco, I mean, it's just for all the reasons you're talking about, the park overlays, the batted ball profile, like, you know, what happens when he puts the ball in the air, all this sort of stuff is going to be very fascinating to track. And you don't get contrasts like that all that often, I don't think. So yeah, do you have any lingering thoughts here? Because I've got something very important I have to tell the people.
I don't. I think we've covered it. It's unfortunate the Red Sox have once again figured out a way to part ways with generational talent and really just create an uproar in their season when it felt like they were just starting to turn their ship around. But yeah, no, other than that, Jayhay, not much.
I will say, like, there is a small part of me that wants to leave the book open a little bit on this because there is a world, I think, where, you know, the Red Sox turn the $250 million that they no longer have invested in a DH long-term into things that make what I still think is a dynamic. I don't think any less about the remaining players because Devers is gone, and I was excited about a lot of those people. I think there is a world where they can make this team better than it was. I'm just extremely skeptical that that's really what was motivating this trade ultimately, or that it wasn't the third or fourth or fifth motivation for this trade. And we'll see how it gets reinvested. And from the Giants side, I think there is I admire the Buster Posey era. I admire that the Giants are acting, and they haven't really ever stopped. They tried to act like this for a long time and had, I guess, trouble having people take their money or having be the highest bidder or whatever it might have been. But I admire a team acting like the market and the team that they are. But I do think we could be in 3 or 4 years having a conversation about what this team looks like with a lot of money owed to players that are in their mid to late-ish 30s and how good is Willie Adames in 2 years? What does Matt Chapman's offense defense profile look like in 3 years? And then all the concerns that we have about Devers. But in the interim or in the present, they're 10 games over 500 and they have a real ace in his prime. They have a team that can win, I think can win the World Series if things go their way. We've seen worse teams make and win the World Series. So yeah, I think it's admirable and it's fun.
Yeah. Just a quick before you get to your incredibly groundbreaking
please
statement that I know is coming. I just want to take this time to shout out Tristan Casas because this was a guy who had that crystal ball rolling and had that thing polished up a long time ago. He let the world know, hey, there's still some grown men here that have a lot of things to iron out. And I had no idea that he knew that this was coming down the pipe. I had no idea that he felt as strongly as he did in that moment about where the franchise was headed. But I feel like he saw this coming. He knew it. And for all the flack that Tristan Casas catches in that organization, I hope Red Sox fans will find a way to wrap their arms around him as he makes his way back, because he's kind of the one who said, hey, there's a lot to figure out here. I know you guys want some new players on this roster. I know we're getting new players on this. there's some things that a lot of grown men have to figure out here. And I don't know if those things have been figured out yet, Jayhay, but maybe they're one step closer.
I think it's good that maybe you and Jared weren't together for this pod. Think that, yeah, might have gotten ugly. Fake ugly, of course, people. Fake ugly, of course. But I have some really important stuff to tell you, and it's about the Underdog app.
That's right.
Yep. So everybody knows about the extender, and if you are an NBA fan listening to this podcast, which I know there are many of you, I am one of them. Obviously, the NBA Finals resumes tonight. Pacers at Thunder, 8:30, Game 6. This is very exciting. Game 5 series is tied 2-2. This is all very exciting. Thunder, obviously, once again favored as they have been in every game. This one is back in Oklahoma City. DB, do you have any NBA Finals thoughts?
No.
No.
No. What are the Pacers on? Like, what is going? Like, it's just basketball has always kind of been a sport where you can tune in for the last 30 seconds because that's going to take 20 minutes to get through.
Well, sure. Okay.
Probably going to tell you a large part of how the game has gone in that moment. And it feels like the Pacers are like, oh, all right, 3.5 quarters down. All right, let's go win a ball game. And they do.
I mean, it's been statistically, historically, it's been the craziest run of fourth quarter comebacks in NBA playoff history that they've executed this year. So that may not be done. And obviously tune in tonight and get some action going on the Underdog fantasy app. But the real reason that we're going to talk about this is because you and Jared.
Oh, that's right.
It was a magical Sunday. It was a magical Sunday because both of you hit your pick'ems. Jared hit his, which was Shohei Ohtani, Trent Grisham, and the departed Rafael Devers all going over 1.5 total bases. So they hit 2 or more each. That was a 12-7-1 times multiplier. So that was a big one for the Rocket. Unfortunate that he couldn't be here to celebrate that victory, although weighing, having to deal with Devers versus celebrating his Underdog pick'em win, tough decision there. And you, sir, also a winner at a 4.75 multiplier because Max Fried, higher 17.5 pitching outs, Mackenzie Gore, higher 17.5 pitching outs, and Emerson Hancock, higher 15.5 pitching outs. That one particularly unfortunate for me against the guards. What's your reaction here? Take a bow, sir.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you. It's just a matter of reading the matchups. You have an idea of where guys are at in their outings and where they're at. Game logs. You're just, who the competition is. You know what the success rates against the majority of the lineups are, and you feel like, yes, this is a great landing spot here. It was about getting outs. That's what it was. It was a Father's Day full of getting outs, and the boys answered the bell. I would like to take this time,
yes,
because I know he wouldn't do it himself. Lord knows he would just continue and just say thank you and keep it moving. He would not. He being Jared would not tell you, I had to adjust, man. There's fucking new players and then canceled them. I had to make an adjustment. Guys get so
he did have to adjust.
I did the homework, I saw he had to make an adjustment on the fly. He went Trent Grisham, able to step in and answer the bell for him. So a tip of the cap to Senior Total Bases, who once again, probably amidst a gut-wrenching moment. Well, actually, no, these picks were in earlier. He didn't know that the best player on his team was going to get traded after a nice
he
run.
had no idea. It was extremely bittersweet. Again, part of the whole roller coaster of emotions on Sunday where, the pick'em hits, the game's won. My player's going to San Francisco. It's like,
this
is
a
lot.
Jay, that's Jared standing at the door, slightly ajar. The last bag has been taken out to the car and packed. The trunk has been shut. Devers looks back. He sees the tears streaming down the face of little Rocket. And he says, he runs right up to the door. He's like, hey, shh. Index finger on the lips. He grabs him subtly by the cheek, thumb and index finger, bookending that sorrowful jaw. And it's just a sweet little, we've had fun together. This is for you. And that's how he said goodbye. That's how he said goodbye. I don't know that Jared could be any more fulfilled after that. You lean on your guy to get you over the hump, to get you
win
to the promised land, and he paid you, right? One last scoop of love from Rafael Devers.
Speaking of Jared, make sure you sign up with the code Jared to get up to $1,000 in bonus credits and a special pick on Underdog. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Jared. Quick note here, because do want to make sure that we are editorially consistent. The Red Sox swept the Yankees.
They did.
And I want to note, we noted that briefly off the top, and obviously that is a story. It became a secondary story by their own making. But the highlight here, and then I want to see your reaction to it because it's obviously your specialty. Highlight here is their starting pitching. Obviously, for anyone who watched the series, which I was fortunate enough to take in a great majority of it, 21 1/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and a 20-5 strikeout to walk ratio. That was Garrett Crochet on Friday. Hunter Dobbins. Who probably having some awkward conversations with his family, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to be the media who's making too big of a deal about his family history being a lie. And Brian Bayo, 7 scoreless on Sunday. Any reactions to any of those three?
Reaction to Bayo. To Bayo. Because I think for the most part over his last few outings, right? I think his last 4 or 5 starts, he's I mean, it's been marginal because he hasn't been getting deep into ball games. That has been the issue. His last 3 starts though, Jayhay, that was starting to change, right? He had completed 6 innings into the 7th inning, and this time around completes 7 innings. It was far and away his best outing of the year. Still some command issues, and I don't want to call them issues because it was 3 walks that he had to work around, and he did just that, worked around the walks, scattered lowly 3 hits. So for the Red Sox, their 1-2 punch right now, if it's Sale and Bayo, or not Sale and Bayo, excuse me, Crochet and Bayo, it's a pretty good place to be, especially if Bayo is going to continue to trend in the direction he is, because over those last, what did I say, 4 starts, 5 starts? Let me hear. You know what? Let me fucking, instead of trying to log into my memory, let me log into something else.
Yeah. Almost anything else would be a better idea than your memory. I feel like.
Well, I like I said, it was his last, I said his last 4 starts. So we'll look at his last 5. And you got a 2.89 ERA, the FIP right in line with that productivity at 2.93, 25 hits over those 28 innings, the 25 strikeouts, 9 walks. So again, not getting terribly deep into those ball games early on, but the last few absolutely trending in the right direction, especially if this team is going to climb out of the hole that they dug themselves.
I know it's kind of a basic take, but I was going to react quickly to Crochet just because, like, you know, when greatness is expected and delivered, sometimes it's just like, oh, well, that's what I expected. So like, let's just keep it moving here a little bit. But like, you know, they acquired him with enormous expectations. And I just think it's worth noting that he has fully delivered on those expectations. Entering Monday's action, I know he's not pitching on Monday, but entering Monday's action league-wide, he leads Major League Baseball in innings pitched. He leads the AL in strikeouts, and he has a 2.24 ERA. He's 4th in Major League Baseball in FWAR among pitchers. So, like, yeah, the great leap has happened. He's taken last season's, first half breakout, and then I know that he was put on ice. He's taken that, and he seems to have applied it over, a real full MLB workload. But that wasn't guaranteed. And I think it's nice that it's happening. And I know it's kind of, A, it was Friday, and B, a lot has happened since then, and that it's kind of getting lost in, kind of the mess that is the Red Sox season overall. But they have him inked long-term, and he looks every bit the top 5 overall pitcher in Major League Baseball that a lot of people were hoping. So just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, no, you're and thank you for doing that. And I think maybe it's fair time that I pull up my pants and wipe and maybe quit shitting on the Red Sox right now. But Garrett Crochet, when you go back to the conversation that was being had about his stance that he took on whether or not he was going to be going multiple innings, whether or not he was going to be giving you any more than he could possibly give you at the time because, well, he wanted to be paid to do so. You want to put me in the bullpen and ride me out? Well, you're going to have to write me a check if that's what you think you're going to do. And there were a lot of folks, myself included, who felt like that was a very bold stance to take, having no postseason pedigree, really. And now here we are with his performance. He has just basically told every one of us to shut your mouth. This is what I knew I was capable of doing. This is the direction I knew I was heading in. So I got what I needed, which was a team to invest in me, a team to give me what I was looking for. And that was ultimately peace of mind. And peace of mind, sure, came in the form of dollars, came in the form of the extension. But ultimately what that provided Garrett Crochet with is that comfort to go out and compete. And he has repaid the Red Sox handsomely in return. So where they're at this season, all things aside, what you're getting from Garrett Crochet is exactly what you signed up for and more, like you said, Jayhay. And I don't think you could be happier with what Crochet has done. And there, I think it's just very clear. They're going to need Bayo to continue to pitch the way he has over those last 3-4 starts that I mentioned. And they are absolutely going to, if Hunter Dobbins can continue to pitch the way he is right now, like just maintain this, brother. Maintain this. Get the outs you're getting right now. And if you can do that, you give your team a chance every 5 days. You don't have to shoulder the load that you want to see Bayo take on. You don't have to shoulder the load that Crochet has taken on as the tip of the spear. You just got to go out and do what you have done up until this point. 3.74 ERA over 9 starts, 55 and a third innings. Just go get outs. Fill up the strike zone and go get outs. I know it's tough to say let the defense play because you got a shitty defense behind you. They're not picking up the baseball very well as of right now, but just go compete.
I like imagining Hunter Dobbins, picking out a historically great player from the opposing team's history and pretending like that guy has somehow wronged his father or something like that. So
yes,
yeah, we'll see what continues to fire him up. Hey, dude, it's happening. Shohei Ohtani is returning to the pitcher's mound tonight, Dallas.
Showtime! I can't fucking wait.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay out. I want your just lay it on me.
Well, I just we wondered when this was going to happen. There was so much speculation about what sort of role he's going to be, and we talked about him becoming that super utility reliever, right? Like this is a guy who's going to DH and take his first 3 at bats of the game, and then he's going to come into the ball game and shut your meat and potatoes of your order down. Probably hit the walk-off afterwards. Like it's just we've had it all drawn up. But I think ultimately you have to consider where the Los Angeles Dodgers are at when it comes to the kind of production they're getting on the mound. And there's no other way to put it. They need help. And for Shohei Ohtani to have come out of each and every one of his live sessions and each and every one of his sim games as healthy as he has, feeling as good as he has, those are the things that help the Dodgers make this decision. And I don't think there's any question that the Dodgers have been playing coy about where Shohei has been at in regards to how he feels. But that's something that I think fans should already have gotten to understand, that you're just not going to get the updates and the real transparency when it comes to Ohtani that you might get from other players, right? This is who knew about Ohtani signing with the Dodgers until he told us, right? It just wasn't a thing. So for Ohtani to be back where he's at right now, ready to be injected back into this rotation, now I think the real conversation starts about what you can expect. Because if he is back in this moment right now, I think that tells us 2 things. 1, the health is good enough for him to be back. The health is good enough for him to be thrust back into the mix. 2, I think it's a very real acknowledgement of, hey, we know we're struggling on the mound. Dodgers right now, team ERA 4.19. That's 22nd overall in baseball. The 242 batting average against is 16th in baseball. The 732 OPS against is 22nd in baseball. Their starters ERA, Jayhay, 4.28. Want to take a guess where that's at? Good guess. 22nd in baseball.
Thank you.
The bullpen, a little better. Maybe just under middle of the pack at a 4.08 ERA. That's 19th in baseball. The take-home message here, they need help on the mound. They need help on the mound. So enter the knight in shining armor, Shohei Ohtani, who we haven't seen on a mound since late August of 2023. That was an inning and a third worth of work against the Cincinnati Reds. He did punch out 2, but he didn't complete 2. And that's when we knew, fuck, we're not going to see Showtime for a hot minute. Well, the clock has turned, and that hot minute is upon us.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think, the spectacle will be awesome. I think it's super cool that it's happening against the Padres. We have talked about what would it look like that it's happening as an opener, like that's been acknowledged. I think adds a little bit more spectacle to it too, because he's only going probably an inning at the absolute maximum he's going to. And just some of the comments about Dave Roberts basically saying that the simulated experience had quote run its course for Ohtani, and that's basically code for like he was bored and is ready for and they're acknowledging this is basically a continuation of the rehab at the major league level, which is probably a not good idea for a lot of people, but probably a totally sensible idea for somebody like Shohei Ohtani, who's demonstrated what he did in the simulated games.
Yeah, you have to think about it from this perspective, though, Jayhay, is what do the Dodgers do if they send Shohei out on a rehab? Well, they lose their all-world DH. They lose the fucking front runner for the NL MVP, right? So we can't have that. What are we doing? We're sending this guy to fucking Rancho Cucamonga so that he can get an inning or 2 worth of work and he's not going to be banging baseballs around Petco. Well, that ain't happening. So, yeah, the rehab is exactly, and just a side note, I hope folks truly appreciate how difficult that is. All right. This is coming from a guy who was essentially a professional rehabber at one point in my life. It is not easy to find yourself on the injured list and then with no work in like real game action, just take it back to the mound in the big leagues. Like, okay, first game action will be in the big leagues against big league hitters looking to take my head off, because I'm not just some slapdick rolling out there trying to get my feet wet. I'm Shohei Ohtani, and these dudes want to take me 500 dead central. So there's going to be some adjusting, and there's no doubt that there's going to be some adrenaline for Ohtani. And I think what I would like to see, and I'm sure what has already happened, is the discussion. I'd like to see him go 2 out of the gate. Like, to hell with the 1, give me 2 out of the gate.
Wow.
Because if the lives
You're
have been
already
bored,
getting greedy.
Absolutely. If the live sessions have essentially created a sense of boredom, well, no better way to help out the bullpen than to account or help out your bulk reliever than account for the first 6 outs of the ballgame. And I think Ohtani's more than capable of that. But yeah, Jayhay, that's me instantly getting greedy here because look, where else is the help going to come from, right? The Dodgers have already, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, have already been linked to Sandy Alcantara. And we talked about if he's going to turn around and throw the ball the way that maybe he is capable of and has started to, that I feel like is just like that's going to be a lock. Like that's a done deal.
Well, I want to respond. I'll respond to the Alcantara thing first. I actually feel like my bar for what I need Alcantara to be for him to make sense for the Dodgers is actually really low because like I don't expect the price paid to be like all that enormous. So if that's the case, I don't really give a shit if I'm from the Dodgers fan perspective. I don't care about whether Sandy Alcantara is pitching the most important games for us in the postseason to make it worth it. I want his availability between now and the postseason. That's just as, if not more important to me. And if we can get there, then maybe some of our like higher impact guys, the Snells and the Glasnows of the world are back and are able to, and then obviously you have Ohtani and Yamamoto, are able to impact those games, and you can help get us there. Because yeah, you're right. Like, they mentioned Ohtani's two-way player status, obviously playing into this, that they can roll out the 6-man without being down an arm in the bullpen because he doesn't count against the designated 13 spots and all that sort of stuff. So kind of like at this point, why not use him in the game? Which makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I'm extremely excited that while Ohtani as an offensive player and what he did last year was more than enough to satisfy, I think, even the greediest of baseball fans, what ultimately sets him on his own pedestal is the pitching and the hitting, right? And that is going to be back to happening here. And I don't really ultimately give a shit whether it's as a 5 or 6 inning starting pitcher or whether it's as a 2 or 3 inning opener, long reliever, game ender, whatever. I don't care really. That it's happening again is awesome. And yeah, and that it's happening, I think, sooner than we were even acknowledging last week, makes it feel even more special.
Let me ask you this, and I'm not saying this like you are more susceptible to dismissing what he's doing. I will say it this way. I, for not a single second ever in my life, have just gotten over what Ohtani is capable of doing, and especially when he's doing it on both sides of the ball. There's not another human on the planet that appreciates it more. I promise you that. So with that being said, is there any worry? Is there any concern from a fan perspective? Is there any thought? And I mean, you're not just a fan because you're someone who follows the game and studies the game in a very similar way that I do, just because of the work you do. So what is your initial reaction should Shohei Ohtani start to struggle offensively while the comeback on the mound is what we're going
through? I'd like to think that my tolerance for that sort of struggle will be long enough to let him work through it, because I think that would be pretty natural. I think it would be more surprising and entirely possible that it plays out this way, but I think it would be more surprising if there was no adaptation period or no adjustment period, because, they have talked about the toll that it takes on his body relative to just DHing. But he has said that how he feels most comfortable ultimately is doing both of those things. And that's what he wants to get back to. And I'm
listening.
Yeah, given his track record to this point, I am really just inclined to trust Shohei Ohtani on knowing what is best for his routine and his situation and his productivity, because I feel like it's been a really long time since we've seen any even suggestion that doing both harmed his ability to do either one, or specifically for his offense. Like, we are years beyond that being a talking point. So
yeah,
and I'm not saying you're saying that, but like just in the hypothetical. No. So I think like if he does struggle, I think that's pretty natural, but I also think that there needs to be a level of patience to let him work through that. And if you need to reevaluate it at the end of the season, then maybe you do so. But I don't feel like that's something you reevaluate in season unless it's causing real, like, the sort of pain or the sort of issue that is not normal or is not an adjustment period.
And I just want to remind folks, this is a guy who during this season and during this last offseason was recovering and is still currently recovering from a shoulder surgery, as well as on the mend from the elbow surgery. So this was a guy who was quite literally playing Major League Baseball with 2 repaired and recovering arms and is doing what he's doing. Just remember that. All right. He's up there absolutely annihilating baseballs and is now going to be vaporizing batters And and it's all while sort of on the mend, on the comeback. But this is the marquee player in the game, and he's now going to be taking center stage like he has so many times before. And I'm really, I think I'm really interested to see how the Dodgers feed off of just the idea of having him back on the mound and understanding what he's capable of when he's healthy and how that all starts to play out, because that could very well be an injection into this rotation and into this club. It's kind of crazy because it feels like you're getting another guy back, but it's the same dude. Like Ohtani's back. Well, fuck, he hasn't left. Well, he's back on the mound. Oh, that's right. Oh, like a lot of people are about to get reminded that this dude is a badass.
And there's no better time, Dallas, I don't think, for me and you to tell the listeners about Game Time, because has there ever been a better excuse to log on to the Game Time app, which is, of course, Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Baseball is Dead. Between Shohei Ohtani's return to the mound tonight, right? Yep. So you can absolutely use the app to go see what the availability is, and I'm sure it's great as we, Game Time, obviously, with all the features that it provides. 10:10 Eastern Time, 7:10 local, San Diego at Los Angeles. Dylan Cease, Shohei Ohtani, back on the mound, his return. And Dallas, you know what else occurred to me?
What's that?
Maybe this is something you could look into. I'm not sure I'm going to be in a position to take advantage of this, but you may, because guess what's happening this weekend, sir?
Is it? Hold on. What? Tell me, Jayhay.
The Boston Red Sox travel to
where do they go?
San Francisco. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh,
Red Sox, Giants.
Wow.
Dobbins, Bayo, Giolito, and of course they will be facing, presumably, Rafael Devers in a Giants uniform.
How about that? Rafi Devers couldn't be more excited to finally get some decent clam chowder in his life. Good for him. He can't wait. I can't wait to see Rafi just fucking absolutely hammering the sourdough ball. Get it? Rafi, welcome. Rafi, welcome to the West Coast.
That's probably the rudest thing you've said yet about the clam chowder. With Game Time, you've got last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. There will be no bad seats to take in Rafael Devers squaring up against his former team in the Red Sox this weekend in San Francisco. Fees are obviously included, so you know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. With the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. The Game Time ticket coverage, with that, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code BID, that's spelled BID, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code BID for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Ohtani tonight, Devers against the Red Sox this weekend, many other great options this week.
Yeah, there is no reason to not make Game Time your go-to app this weekend. This weekend.
Yeah.
There's so much on deck right now. Game Time needs to be your best friend. Jay, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on just how that series went for the Red Sox and the Yankees, any sort of implications, or if you're kind of all done there, have made your peace with everything. Because Aaron Judge, I thought it was and nothing that you don't expect from a guy of his caliber and his character, but he came out and said, look, this is probably on me. This is my bad, blame myself. I'm chasing shit out of the strike zone. This is just uncharacteristic of who I am. I mean, is there any thought
I have
that this
a
might
thought.
have opened some shit up for the? I mean, because it's crazy to think that did this series pump life? Did this series inject life into the Red Sox and enough life into the Red Sox for them to start making a run, making a push, turning things around? Because remember, they've lost Rafael Devers, the guy completely and totally responsible for every bit of success they were having.
Wow.
Now he's gone. Now he's gone.
Let's see. I mean, I think it should have given them confidence. I think it should have given them like a little bit of a jolt. I don't know that you can credibly say at this point how tangible that is. I mean, they went from, one source obviously, but on Fangraphs, they went from 22% to 31% to make the playoffs. That's not nothing. That's still the fourth highest mark in their own division. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it's going to really move them forward as it relates to the Judge. Listen, I still have some level of optimism about the Red Sox with or without Rafael Devers as a wild card team, but I'm certainly dialing back my expectations for how they might supplement this team on the 2025 season. And if they're not going to do that, and those players are going to go to direct competitors for the wild card spots, then you start to get into kind of a troubling math scenario. But we'll see how it goes. I'm not jumping off quite yet. But as it relates to the Judge thing, I think my only take is that he was terrible. Other than the very dramatic, legitimately kind of awesome, unless you're a Red Sox fan, home run off of Crochet on Friday that tied the game and sent it to extras. Like that was, a potential Cy Young candidate for the Red Sox from the left side, coming at the MVP of the Yankees. That's cool. But that was the only hit, I believe. And that's tough.
Well,
what I hate is that the narrative then just goes to like, and not for everybody, but for the loudest people, we just start dismissing what he's done to this point because it isn't in the postseason. And look what happened when he played the Red Sox. Like all of a sudden, I know it's the rivalry, but it's not like from a practical standpoint, the Yankees have played more important series this season, presumably already. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's not. It's like, so that's just a little bit annoying as somebody who is kind of tired of, the Aaron Judge only does it in the lowest leverage, highest, or regular season situations. It's
Well, you mentioned something about the only hit. So that leads me to this. Is there any concern with Roman Anthony? Any concern at all? Because he has just one of those, just one hit, 1 for 19 is Roman Anthony. I think maybe one of the positives is only 4 strikeouts. He has been able to work a couple walks, but I mean, this was part of the group that was, part of the saviors, right? This is like the Paw Patrol right here. Like all the pups that were supposed to come up and save the day. I mean, they've traded Riders in San Francisco now. So the Paw Patrol may be leaderless, but maybe the Paw Patrol was supposed to show up without the leader. But Roman Anthony, if he's the leader of the Paw Patrol now, like, dare I say, the Paw Patrol has yet to gain their footing.
I think that's fair. It does feel like the Devers trade, while not necessarily direction signaling in and of itself, feels like the path or the opportunity window should be a little longer for the Paw Patrol than maybe it otherwise would have if you were prioritizing this season and winning the most games you possibly can in the present. Like, probably an argument now that this should be a developmental season and their development is the number one priority. And it would seem like they're more apt to get that at the major league level than they are being sent down to levels that they have seemingly already handled before. I do think the Roman Anthony question specifically is kind of interesting because we're obviously dealing with an incredibly small sample size. I believe per Savant, he's seen 69 total pitches. So everything DB and I say has to be taken with that level of, with that caveat. But I do think like there might be a passivity issue here at first, because I have watched, how many plate appearances does he have? I don't, 19. I believe I've watched like 16 or 17 of the 19 plate appearances for Roman Anthony at this point. And the numbers would suggest that what my hunch was is correct, is that he's both he's falling behind in the count, I think is what's happening here to a large degree. He's not swinging at pitches that are thrown in the zone at a rate that is, I think, untenably low, particularly with somebody with his ability to make contact and his ability to drive the ball, as we have seen in the minor leagues. He feels like a guy who's, I don't even want to say in between, because but like his rhythm is not there yet, right? Like,
this is, I'm watching this, and look, this happens, and look, we all understand how much shit I'm talking right now on the Red Sox and why. And to put the serious hat on for just a moment, I am watching this same thing unfold, and I've watched it unfold with multiple guys with the Athletics, right? I watched it with Nick Kurtz. I watched it with Soderstrom early on. Both of those guys have done a tremendous job of making adjustments. I'm watching it with Denzel Clark specifically right now. And to your assessment, that is exactly how we describe it. Caught in between. You're in between pitches. You're in between timing. You're in between approaches. What you're doing right now is you have reverted back to survival mode. And that's a scary place to be at times. And at times, that could be exactly what pulls you out of your funk. If that has been a reliable retreat option, is to just go back to doing what has gotten me here. Because that's something that we always say is trust yourself, trust your stuff, trust what has gotten you here. Well, the difference is once you graduate to the big leagues, you start that graduation process all over. You're now a freshman all over again, right? You're a rookie pup. And you got to figure out, it's pitch recognition for me. It's pitch recognition. And that's why, Jayhay, you start talking about, oh man, maybe a lack of aggression. And that's trying to pick out certain pitches. I mean, as of right now, I looked it up. He's seeing 4 pitches per plate appearance, right? And he's striking out once every 4 plate appearances. So again, very small sample size. But if you're just not getting swings off, and especially early in the count, what you typically see with young players is aggression early. Why? Because they don't want to get to the secondary shit, right? They don't want to get to the wipeout stuff. So I'm going to pick out a heater early, and I'm going to get after that. Well, sometimes what you see at this level is, I'm not going to let you ambush me, young pup. You've been laying in the weeds. You've been in the bushes for how long? I'm a vet. I know what you're up to. I know the game you're playing here. You're looking to get off on a heater early in the first couple pitches. Well, I'm going to spin you 2 of the nastiest breaking balls you've ever seen. Maybe I pull the string on a change piece. And by the time we get to the fastball, it's 0-2, 1-2, and you're flailing and shit. And this isn't Roman Anthony specific. This is young player specific. And I think that that's a combination of what I'm watching with Denzel Clark, what we have seen with Roman Anthony as well.
Well, and like while you were saying that, it made me motivated to go like dig into this just a little bit more, because we didn't plan necessarily to talk about Roman Anthony specifically, but I think it's an interesting question. And the thing I brought up about zone swing and zone contact, like his zone swing rate would be, if he was qualified or anywhere near it, the lowest zone swing rate in Major League Baseball right now. His zone contact rate would be the 5th highest, and it would be behind only Arias, Kwan, Nico Horner, and one other person that I can't remember off the top of my head, but that type of player, right? And so I think I said it, but it doesn't matter. You get the sense of who I'm talking about. Jacob Wilson. Jacob Wilson would be the person right after Roman Anthony on the list. And so what strikes me is that you have a guy who is off the charts in how infrequently he's swinging at pitches in the zone. But when he does, he makes contact at a rate that is like the most contact light bat type of players in Major League Baseball. Right, exactly. And not only pitch recognition, but like if you combine the zone swing and zone contact stuff, the person who's, first of all, nobody has the profile that he has, but the person closest to it is probably Stephen Kwan. And the idea that Roman Anthony is going up there and with a general approach that resembles what Stephen Kwan is doing is not what Roman Anthony is there to do, right? And not what the skill set that he has. That's not how he's going to be successful. That's not how he's going to hit 25, 30 homers in the big leagues, have an 850, 875, 900 OPS, whatever it's going to be. So like, yeah, I think plenty of time to turn it around, but I think it's interesting that that's what you're seeing. That's what the numbers hold up. And that's what, you've dealt with from the A's side as well.
Yeah, it's something that it's something that I gravitate towards early with young players because I'm so intrigued by guys who can make those adjustments. And I think this is part of my the talent evaluation cap that I wear at times, where I want to see the struggle. I give me that, right? Because we can all pinpoint a guy who hits a ball 450. We all can go, oh, that guy's strong. I want to see what happens when that strong guy is running low. Can't pick out a pitch that he wants to get off on a good swing. I want to see what those struggles look like. So that has been why I brought up Roman Anthony, because I like secretly I want the dude I want him and Jacob Wilson to be doing this all summer long for that rookie of the year. I want that race, man. I absolutely do.
Need to get going.
Yeah, it just sucks that it's not quite unfolding right now, but it's very early, still very early. Jayhay, we have a team that is starting to do some of the things that this team has been known to do time and time and time and time again, and that's take ownership of a division, that start to create some separation of a division. I am talking about those son of a bitches out in Houston, the Houston Astros, who have swept the Minnesota Twins and now sit in a fairly comfortable 4.5 game lead atop the American League West. And they've done it in exciting fashion.
Yeah, back-to-back walk-off wins for the first time in 3 years, almost.
Daggers. Absolute daggers. With the way that Hunter Brown has been pitching, I think you can understand. He's fucking dealing. Absolutely dealing. And stay tuned, because we're going to jump in the lab with old Hunter Brown. And that is going to be exceptional.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how closely you paid attention to that series. Just want to get your overall thoughts, I think, on what you think the Astros are capable of doing, and if this division has anything to do with that, or if it's just a matter of the Astros kind of putting the blinders on, and like Joe Espada said, trust in the vets that we have in the room, trust in the young talent that we have in the room, and we'll look up in September and see where we're at once again, which 7 out of 8 years has been at the very top of this month.
Yeah, I mean, so yes and no on the division question. I think yes, it is partly that they play in this division, because I think objectively they are not as good as probably the Yankees, probably the Tigers, whoever wins the NL East, probably the Cubs, and whoever wins the NL West, definitely the Dodgers. So like, yeah, I think that's part of it, but that would also be a cop-out to say that it's just the division, because I believe you pick the Mariners to win the division. So I can't just sit here and say that there are no teams worth talking about and that the Astros are just, like a turd floating to the top or something like that, because they're not that. And they're now a season high 11 games over 500. They've won 5 straight, 8 of 10 and 15 of 20. And in the blink of an eye, this has gone from, the Mariners are, having a tenuous hold on top of the AL West. Like, oh, isn't this predictable, to like, there is a 4.5 game separation between these teams. And like, part of the emotional reaction that I'm having to this is that I'm just kind of fucking tired of the Mariners not doing it. And like, that's my honest response, is that
I'm with you. I'm punching at air with 2 hands, and one of them is meant for the Astros and the other one's meant for the fucking Mariners, because I'm going, you son of a bitches, do not come back here. And can you son of a bitches get it going? Right? Like somebody, I don't want to watch the Astros do this again. No, I'm just going to be open and honest about it. I do not want to see this again. The Mariners are getting the big fella back. They're getting Logan Gilbert back.
They are,
which is a great sign. But that doesn't do anything for them offensively, right? No, and Cal Raleigh can only hit fucking 4 or 5 times a game, hopefully more. And if he's hitting more, well, then you like what your offense has done on that given day. But he doesn't get to hit every 3 at bats. There's got to be other guys in this lineup that pick up the slack, because that's what the Astros have done over the last 2 weeks, is they've gotten guys in this lineup to step up and start carrying. I mean, Jeremy Pena, Mr. Pena's hitting almost 400 over the last 2 weeks. You've got guys like Altuve,
and he had a huge game over the weekend too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to see the Mariners, and I don't want to be the broken record here, but I want to see the Mariners step up and start to do something offensively where there has to be something done. But unfortunately, I do think it's going to continue to, as I projected early, fall back on the pitching staff. And whether that's right or not, I'm not telling you that it's okay that it goes there. But
I have some bad news for you, though, man.
God bless you.
I have some bad news for you, because I knew you were going to say that it's going to fall back on the pitching staff. And I think the reality is, and this is the reality that I had when I was getting ready for the pod today, is that I think the Astros rotation might just be as good or better. And
buddy,
if that's the case, if that's the case, then I think the Mariners aren't just like, oh, they've got to get Logan Gilbert back and figure it out. They might just be outclassed again. And if that's the case, then that's incredibly frustrating for reasons we've outlined many times before. But like, I'm looking at, I know how I felt about the Astros rotation and the Mariners rotation to start the season, but we've now digested 2.5 months worth of baseball. And by any evaluation, the eyes, the numbers, the back of the base, like whatever, Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez are just as good, if not better, than pick any two of the Mariners pitchers. And honestly, it's probably really difficult to actually argue that they aren't just better than any combination of the two Mariners pitchers, because
as of right now, yes,
for sure.
As of right now, today, that is a fair statement. If you're taking, if you were to ask me, give me two guys from either side, I don't think you can beat the Framber Hunter Brown combo right now. Now that's where the depth of this rotation starts to come into question, because do you expect to continue to get or are you expecting, quality innings, quality outings from Lance McCullers, who, by the way, is got back to just absolutely fucking punching tickets? What's he got? 39 punch outs in 29 innings, I think I saw.
My expectations for him have changed in a hurry. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I mean, if you'd asked me this question 3 weeks ago, I would have said my expectations are virtually non-existent. And to your point, like, we're now on we're really on 2 starts, with the third just getting lumped in because it happens to be the third in front of 2 other good ones. But like, yeah, a 3.71, 2.90 FIP over his last 3 starts with, as you said, lots and lots of punchies. I don't know. It's a fair question because the depth doesn't match up with whoever you want to say is the 3, 4, 5, 6 of the Mariners, but that the Astros can right now check the box on better front of the rotation. And I think right now can also check the box on offense that as a whole, we probably feel more comfortable about. I know they're like almost identical in to date production to this point, but if we're projecting moving forward, how reliant they've been on Cal Raleigh, all that the Astros don't have Yordan Alvarez, all that sort of stuff. I think we're probably all feeling at least a little bit better about the Astros offense. And if that's the case, like, we may just be having the deja vu season in the AL West.
No,
all over again.
Stop that. I'm not here for that shit. I will die on the hill that the Mariners, that the Seamen have enough punch on the mound from top to bottom to do more than what the Astros are going to be capable of. I will stand by that. I believe it. And again, no arguing the 1-2 punch as we sit right now. But I tell you, if you get a 6+ 7 inning type performance out of Logan Gilbert today on the bounce back right out of the gate, I think you can easily go, well, give me Gilbert, give me any combination of Wu and Castillo, and I feel pretty good about it. Who's the kid that they had?
Over the weekend?
Emerson
Hancock?
Not Emerson. No, because I mean, he would be. Look, you get him to start to roll. That's a great option. I think he's got like a 4.5 right now. Why am I? All right, fuck it. I'm gonna look it up.
Describe him to me. Did he pitch over the weekend? Like
right-hander. Hold on, Logan Evans.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say Bryce Miller's hurt.
No, exactly. That was why. But I mean, and what do you expect to get out of Logan Evans consistently? Who knows? But if he's contributing the way he is right now, sure. That's just part of that depth conversation, or at least part of the depth stance that I was trying to take. That I'm telling you, that's the depth hill I'm planting my flag on.
I understand.
But
I'm having a hard time getting over the fact that that Brown and Valdez have been two of the 5 or 6 best pitchers in the entire AL to this point. And even if we get Logan Gilbert and George Kirby back to their peaks, which was what probably as recently as last season, that's basically what they were. So it's like,
well, the Hunter Brown train. Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you right now, like the Hunter Brown train, this is a dude on a mission. All right. This is a guy who's just in a different headspace than he has been in years past. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's a scary, scary thought for the competition. Because when animals like this start to understand their stripes and start to get a feel for their spots, which means they know why they're making the changes and they know why they're having the success they're having. Brother, that is a very bad scenario for other people, because in Hunter Brown's mind, the only competition he has every 5 days is himself. And the numbers, I think, reflect that this is a guy who has gotten a game plan, understands where he's at in his preparation and where he's at in his ability to execute right now, how things are coming out of the hand. I mean, he is oozing confidence. And I just sit down with the best boobs in Kansas City this week in the Slab Lab. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And he mentioned Framber Valdez and just what sort of a competitor. And we were talking about Arsenal. I mean, Framber on any given day can make a really, really good lineup look juvenile with weak contact.
Oh, no doubt.
Combination of weak contact and swing and miss. Like, he can make you look silly. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Just as a side note too, didn't occur to me really until we were talking about this, and again, June 16th, understand all that. But we have quite the AL Cy Young race shaping up right now. To me, I'm currently going to draw the line at 6 people, because that feels like where we get a little bit of a drop. But between, in no order, I'll go in order of ERA. That's easy. Hunter Brown 1.88, Max Fried 1.89. The best boobs in KC, 1.92. Skubal, 1.99, obviously the reigning. DeGrom, quietly, a 2.19 ERA. And Crochet, as mentioned previously, league leading in innings pitched and a 2.24 ERA. Just like, I mean, that's obviously some will fall, some will rise, but that we have those 6 putting up those sorts of numbers in largely similar quantities, or at least similar enough, is very, very exciting. And I know you're excited about the number of lefties that are in that group too.
Well, yeah, that is fucking Southpaw showdown. Crochet, Skubal. I mean, did you throw Rodon's name in there? You did not?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't throw a lot of pitchers.
He's farther down the the list. I mean, yeah.
A lot of people I disrespected, I'm sure. But I do feel like if the voting ended today, it would probably be, I feel like I would be confident that I nailed at least 5 of the top 6, if not the top 6.
Oh, there's no question about that. And to your point, the fact that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 out of the top 6 Southpaws, fucking dealing.
Yeah, pretty hot. You want to hit some rapid fire stuff here before we bounce out?
Talk to me.
Dave Martinez has said his players suck again. What do you think about that?
First of all, let me preface this with I absolutely love Davey Martinez. Love Davey Martinez. A great guy, as competitive as I think on-field staff can get outside of wearing spikes and playing the game, a la Tim Flannery, old third base coach for the San Francisco Giants, who, yes, would wear spikes. I mean, fucking eye black on any given day. Just an absolute gamer. Just guys who, when they're at the baseball field, Jayhay, they don't know in any other way to behave other than I am here to rip your throat out. And I thoroughly enjoy those types of men. And Davey Martinez said some things that I think people are kind of shocked to hear at times, and I get it. I'm going to try to give you some perspective, though.
Well, hold on. Can I read the quote really fast? It's never on coaching. Never on coaching. Coaches work their asses off every single day. We're not going to finger point here and say it's coaches. It's never on the coaches. They work hard. The message is clear. All the work is done prior. So sometimes they have to go out there and play the game. It's always been about the players, always. He also went on to say, I played this game a long time. That's a good reminder for people that Dave Martinez did play for a long time. Never once have I blamed a coach for anything. We worked our asses off to get better. They gave us information and we used it. These guys understand what the game is, man. I never had such a group of coaches that work as hard as they do.
So with that being said, let's have an elementary conversation because we can dive into this 1,000 different ways. But we all are very aware that should a group of hitters struggle early out of the gate, and maybe that struggle persists a little longer than a team with expectations might want, what is something that typically happens? What is something that we typically see? Well, somebody from that hitting group, whether it's the assistant hitting coach, the director of hitting, or the hitting coach, whichever label they have, typically that's a head that rolls, right? And Jayhay, correct me if I'm wrong, but how many hitting coaches over your course of watching baseball, how many hitting coaches have you seen take at bats for the team during a season?
No, I have never. I have not.
Oh, never. Okay. Never. All right. So a hitting coach who doesn't take an at bat and isn't directly responsible for the on-field results is typically one of the first people to go, to be relieved of their duties if the team is not hitting. If the team is not hitting, if the players, as Dave Martinez has said, are not hitting, the coach is the one that goes. Same thing that happens on the mound. If the bullpen, if the starting staff or whatever can't figure their shit out, what happens? Pitching coach, gone. Not the players. You know, sometimes that happens, but for the most part, it's not the players that leave town. It's the pitching coach. So what Dave Martinez is saying in so many words is, you want to blame us for not catching ground balls? Well, it's not the coaches who are out there fielding the ground balls. We're the coaches who are there every day early on. We're the coaches who are hitting the ground balls. We're the coaches giving instruction on the ground balls. We're the coaches in the cage with these guys. We're the coaches on the field doing early hitting with these guys. We're the coaches in the bullpen making sure that we're working on the touch and feel, whether it's a pitch design session, which should probably be better served for the offseason, or whether it's just some sort of mechanical cues that we're trying to work through. That's happening with our coaches. It's the players who aren't going out and executing. Now, what I think this does publicly, and this is all depending on what sort of vibe you have in the room, and this is where a manager has to understand, do I have a group of guys that I have to put my arm around and console, or do I have a group of guys that I can kind of put my foot up their ass and motivate them that way? Like, who do I have here? And that's where the manager having a pulse on the clubhouse matters. Because if Davey believes that I've got a group of guys who just sort of need to be called out and need to be held accountable publicly because I know they'll be able to respond to that, well, then maybe this is the route that I go. Because I make it abundantly clear that, hey, boys, we've been putting the work in. And we know that you have been putting the work in too. But at no point in time is this going to just fall solely on the coaching staff because we're not producing. You guys have to go out there and produce as well. And so whether that's the conversation that happens publicly, and then once we're in the room, we're able to sift through that, you hope that's the case. Because on the flip side of this, Jayhay, you could walk into the room today having completely lost the room. And so you have to have a feel for what type of characters you have in that room before you say something like this.
No doubt, no disagreement with anything you said. I also on some level, I just respect Dave Martinez putting it this plainly, because I think there's two things that I don't think you specifically mentioned going on here, which is that I'm sure he is just fucking tired of losing. He is tired of managing teams that have no real chance of doing significant things. Like this guy won the World Series as the manager of a star-studded Washington Nationals team in 2019. And every season since then has been a losing season. And they haven't been scrappy losing seasons, generally speaking. They have been, we are way out of it losing seasons. In fact, the best season by winning percentage over that stretch is 71-91, a .438 winning percentage, which was both 23 and 24. That's 20 games under 500, is the best winning percentage that they have put up since winning the World Series. And they are at .423 this season. They are 11 games below. He is just tired of doing this. And in his head, and I think, why wouldn't you feel this way? He is a championship winning manager who proved right off the bat in his second season that he can win a World Series. And prior to them tearing down the team, he, again, in only 2 seasons, he had never had a losing season. So he's got to be looking around and being like, at what point, and I think fairly, I think the onus, listen, I'm sure there are going to be Nationals fans who chime in and say, we have these problems, X, and X, with Dave Martinez's in-game management. I will defer to you on that. That is fine. I tune in to watch James Wood and CJ Abram primarily, and Mackenzie Gore, okay? So I'm going to defer on Dave Martinez's in-game tactical ability. I know he won a World Series. I know the only one in franchise history. I know that should and has to count for something. But the plainly, the roster that the front office has provided during the course of 4 straight last place seasons and a 4th place finish last season is nowhere near what needs to happen, even a wild card spot. Like, these teams are really far away. And at what point do we start to have the honest conversation about where is this team headed? When is it going to be good? Because James Wood is awesome. CJ Abrams is fun and dynamic. And it's great that he's bounced back from the weird season last year. But where are we going? Where are we going? And he's got to be asking the same fucking question over and over to himself. Because
it's 4 years. It's 4 years of 90 plus losses.
Yeah.
That he's going through right now.
Not even close.
And the kind of mental toll that takes on a guy. And something else you have to consider is this is all part of managing laterally and managing up and down at the same time. So the managing down part is making a statement like this publicly so your players understand what the thought is with the on-field staff. Because who's echoing the conversations? Who's summing up the conversations that the staff is having and then projecting that to the baseball world? Well, that's the manager's job, right? And the manager's job is also to communicate to who? The folks upstairs as well. So without directly saying this to the folks upstairs, the message you send is the players, the resources. If you want to be competitive, I understand you putting these guys in a big league uniform and calling them big leaguers, but that might be as far as it goes. So if you want us to be competitive with the kind of staff that I have, and I know the kind of work that we're putting in, you need to understand that there's just a certain level of caliber of player that is needed to compete in the big leagues. And Jayhay, we are at a point in time in this sport, and there's no denying it. The major leagues has now, in certain corners of this game, become a developmental league, which is fucking pathetic. And I'm not saying this about the Nats specifically. I'm saying this about the game of baseball as a whole, is that it has been allowed to get to a point where we are okay with developing players at the big league level in a win now, results-oriented business. And at the highest level of this business, we are okay with letting guys kind of figure it out here. What in the fuck happened?
Well,
what happened? How did we get here? I don't want to go into the shortened draft and the lack of talent. I don't want to go down that road. But damn it, a manager should be able to say to his players and should be able to say to the front office, we're just not getting it done. We're just not getting it done. And it's a combination of maybe not having the talent, and it's a combination of being okay with not having the talent and just seeing how that shakes out.
There is nothing that this team does well on a team-wide level. They grade out very poorly defensively, regardless of the metric you want to use. They are a very poor offensive team overall, despite the individually interesting components. And they are a bad starting pitching unit, and they are an atrocious bullpen. So, like, if you're Dave Martinez, it's like everywhere. And I know, like, oh, well, the manager, well, shouldn't the manager be responsible for this? I mean, ultimately, not really, because I think we can look at the names and, like, okay, if we're going to assign some credit to the major league coaching staff, let's give them credit for most of the players who actually have some pedigree reaching the major leagues, seemingly building on that for the most part. Once like James Wood looks like a superstar, right? Or at least has the tentpole elements of being a superstar. And CJ Abrams looks like he's back on track. Dylan Cruz obviously had a brutal start to the season and then got hurt, but in between those things looked like he was back on track. But it struck me when we were talking about this and where the blame should be, and then I guess we can move on, is that like this front office is more or less coasting on one good transaction in like half a decade. Because the only interesting things that are going on this roster, while Dylan Cruz is currently on the IL, which was, I mean, he was the number 2 overall pick. So just kind of defaulted into that, is the Juan Soto trade. Like the James Wood, the CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, and to the extent that Robert Hassel is interesting, like those pieces all came from one transaction. And other than that, this front office has done basically nothing that really matters. Nothing that's going to move the needle. Nothing that is going to be part of the next really meaningful Washington Nationals team. And I know Mike Rizzo has got the track record in the ring and, you know, seemingly has as much job security as anybody in his position in baseball. And I'm not calling for jobs or anything, but at what point do we have the conversation that it's been mostly either misses or just nothing for a long time? To your point about what are we willing to accept at the major league level? What sort of development are we willing to accept? The answer to I know you said it's not specific about the Nationals. The answer to the Nationals is infinite, indefinite, both of those things. And it's great that in the case of Mackenzie Gore, that learning at the major league level has yielded a player that looks like he's blossoming into the guy that everybody thought he was going to be and hoped for. But what about the rest of this Drek where the ceiling, even if it gets right, isn't Mackenzie Gore? It's a waiver player.
It's one thing to bring a guy along, right? Because he's supported by a cast that might be able to make up for some of the stumbles that you could expect for a young player who you know is going to be impactful, and you need to garner that experience. You need him to take his lumps, but it's because you know that he's going to be able to learn from them, maybe more so at an expeditious rate than just dominating down in 3A and really not getting much of a challenge there. So you bring him up and you let him work through some of the struggles that this level will absolutely provide him with, and you go from there. But it's because there's other guys that can alleviate that stress. It's other guys that can alleviate what he might not be doing. But when you have 3 or 4 guys in the lineup that are on that same program, and you've got a couple guys in the rotation and maybe a few more down in the bullpen on that same program, well, now we are a fucking developmental league. This ain't the fucking G League. This is the fucking big leagues.
All right.
Fuck.
I don't want you to get too mad. All right. That was, those were the main things I think that at least I wanted to hit. Worth calling out. Zach Wheeler said he plans to retire after the 2027 season. I'm officially on notice for caring about that during the 2027 season.
Yeah. Well, and clock's ticking, right? Clock's ticking for the hardware.
Well, so I guess my main interest both now and then will be if he follows through on that. How does that impact his eventual Hall of Fame case? How does that impact how we view him as a pitcher? Because like he's going to have a peak that is very compelling for the Hall of Fame, particularly in the current era of starting pitching. But he's maybe going to fall even further short of some traditional counting stats if he retires after the 2027 season, even if we're all acknowledging that the bulk of his peak or major contributions would have been exhausted by that point anyway. So anyway, we can talk about that in the future, I guess. But he did announce that.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, with that being said, do you, you know what, let's, we'll do some just quick little housekeeping things. We talked about the Dodgers and the state of the rotation, the fact that Ohtani's coming back. I think some unfortunate news. If you've been keeping up with the Roki Sasaki saga,
bummer.
Unfortunately, a setback. There is now no timetable for the return of Roki Sasaki, which I think we can all understand probably helps move the Ohtani timetable along. Whether there's been an adjustment made specifically for that or not, I think it just allows for that Ohtani train to leave the station. I don't want to say earlier, but maybe right on time. And then we obviously highlighted the return of Logan Gilbert tonight.
Yep.
He'll be facing the Boston Red Sox, who could potentially be reeling right now with the departure of their once beloved, once pillar of their franchise, who is now going to be stuffing his face with real clam chowder out in San Francisco. That's tough. But yes, the return of Logan Gilbert. Jayhay.
Mm-hmm.
You got any nugs for us?
I sure do. Junior Caminero is now up to 279, 354, 698. That's a 1.052 OPS with 9 homers and 25 RBI over his last 22 games. That extends back to May 23rd. Obviously very exciting. All the exit velocity, bat speed stuff. I mean, he's literally class of the league, I think, at the last check in average bat speed. So fun guy who could be tapping into some of that enormous power in game. Ellie De La Cruz had a game with 3 hits, 3 runs, and 3 RBI. That's his 7th career game with at least 3, 3, and 3. That's now tied for the 4th most in Reds franchise history already. He's behind only Frank Robinson, who had 15, Johnny Bench with 9, and Eric Davis with 8. So probably going to pass at least 2 of those 3, maybe even by the end of the season. We'll see. Grant Holmes had one of the craziest losses that you will ever see, where he struck out 15 Rockies. God bless the fucking Rockies, man. Holy shit. I mean, honestly, I was at the Yard Goats game in Hartford, and I may have seen, honest to God, the equivalent talent level at the Yard Goats game for the Rockies minor league equivalent at AA than I would at their major league level. I mean, holy goodness gracious. Grant Holmes just dialing up 15 strikeouts on your ass. What are we doing?
Hey, but you know what? Shout out Grant Holmes, because they talked about it last time after he dialed up, I think 10 or whatever. And he's like, you know what? The shit's starting to get real right. I'm starting to really feel it. I'm starting to, and then he fucking comes out
15.
and punches 15 tickets. I mean, there's no better feeling, especially as a pitcher, to be able to go out and confidently say, I think I've started to tap into something. I think I'm starting to feel something. And then you answer that by punching out a career high 15.
Yeah, it was very cool for sure. Unfortunately for him, he did lose, which is kind of crazy. It was the 3rd time in franchise history a Braves pitcher struck out 15 or more batters in a game, and they went on to lose, the other 2 being John Smoltz in 05 and Warren Spahn in 52. So if that trend holds, we'll be celebrating Grant Holmes' Hall of Fame induction in 20 years or so. 15 or more strikeouts and 2 earned runs allowed or fewer, and took the loss in the wild card era. That's now Grant Holmes in 2025. Big game, James Shields, as the big burrito always used to call him. Big game, James Shields, because he showed up in so many big games. Big game, James Shields, 2012. Jake Peavy, 2006. John Smoltz, 2005, as I said. Pedro in 2000 and Randy Johnson in 1999. So, yeah, Grant Holmes sticks out like a sore thumb on that list. But congratulations to him on that epic achievement loss.
Side note, Grant Holmes' hair is a Hall of Famer already. Continue.
It is. I do respect the long hair. Go watch some old pods if you want. Shohei Ohtani is the 13th player in MLB history with 250 or more homers and 150 or more stolen bases through his age 30 season. Obviously, he's in the middle of it right now. He joins, here's the list: Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, A-Rod, Vlad Guerrero, obviously senior, Ken Griffey Jr., Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Jose Canseco, Darryl Strawberry, Reggie Jackson, Frank Robinson, and Willie Mays.
Wow.
So pretty
Those are
cool.
all good players.
Extremely good players. Ohtani's career OPS plus right now is now 159, which means that of that list of players that I just read off, he'd be tied for 2nd on that list in career OPS plus, behind only Trout, and tied with Bonds, 1 point ahead of Willie Mays. So, yeah, again, if you need more context on how cool Shohei Ohtani is, his OPS plus through his age 30 season, again, in the middle of, is the same as Barry Bonds's was through his age 30 season. So he's like Bonds, but he pitches. Multiple home runs. I saw you retweeted this. You were obviously the guy on the original stat, so I want to give you credit for that. But you motivated me, thought that was a very cool nugget. So I tried to dig a little bit deeper and see how often that had happened. Lawrence Butler hit a home run on a 3-0 count over the weekend, correct?
Correct.
Friday, I think. The days all blend together, but whatever day it was. That's his second this season, second time that he's done that. He did it off a left-handed pitcher. He's a left-handed batter. So multiple home runs on 3-0 counts, left-handed batter versus left-handed pitcher, single season in the last 20 years, 05 to 25. Lawrence Butler this season, Brandon Crawford in 21, and Ken Griffey Jr. with the Reds in 2005. Obviously, you saw it. What was your reaction? Not to the stat, but to seeing Lawrence Butler do that.
Well, he has struggled against left-handers mightily. And to watch him come up, and I think it just shines a light on what a lot of people like to say, whether you're a high evaluator of talent or just a run-of-the-mill baseball fan and you have an understanding of what 3-0 counts mean. You're like, well, he's got to throw a strike, right? That very well may be the best pitch he gets to hit all at bat. And Lawrence Butler said, you know what? Fuck, I think you're right. If he throws me a fastball, I'm spinning on it. And that's exactly what happened. So for Lawrence, I love the fact that he is more than willing to do whatever he needs to try to work through adjustments and make those adjustments. And he said, fuck it. If I'm going to start to build confidence against these lefties, I'm going to sit on a 3-0 heater. And if I get it, I ain't going to miss. And he hasn't missed twice. He's got 2 homers against lefties. They've both come on 3-0 counts.
Speaking of those shit ass Rockies, Grant Holmes did his thing. Spencer Strider also got back on track against the Rockies.
Yeah.
He had a 13 strikeout start with 0 runs allowed. That is his third career start of 13 or more strikeouts, 1 or 0 walks, and 0 runs allowed. All time, pitchers do have 3 of those starts through their age 26 season, which Strider is currently in the middle of. Is Strider, Corbin Burns, Shane Bieber, shout out Slab Lab, Madison Bumgarner, Jose Fernandez, and Roger Clemens. That's the whole list.
Wow.
We'll see whether it was the Rockies or whether it was Spencer Strider finding his groove again. But obviously, another epic start by a Braves pitcher against the Major League's best minor league team.
So that's 28 punch outs between Grant Holmes and Spencer Strider.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's just the starting pitchers too, man. They were, I believe those two combined to only go 12 innings too. So there was plenty of meat left on that bone for all the other pitchers to get their strikeouts too. They probably were like, hey, I'm not going to, that's enough. Like you guys want some strikeouts too? Like,
you guys can.
Aforementioned Hunter Brown is the second pitcher in Astros franchise history with a 12 plus strikeout game against the Twins, joining Dallas Keuchel in September of 2015. And then we're going to round out the Nuggs by doing some Aaron Judge stuff. So if you're a Red Sox fan who is kind of tired of this whole thing, feel free to flip off right now. But Aaron Judge hit 6.0 wins above replacement F4 on June 14th or entering June 14th. That is incredible. I mean, that's an MVP vote getting season on its own. And we're again, only June 14th. Couple of context points here that I wanted to provide. In the 50-year span that Fangraphs allows you to go back and search either for wins above replacement splits. So what did a guy have in a single month? What did a guy have over a set period, like on a specific date through a season? That goes back 50 years. No one has ever had six or more wins above replacement on June 14th in a single season. So we'll start there. Aaron Judge doing things, again, that never have been done before.
Good God.
I went back and looked at the previous 5 seasons for the F4 leader among batters on June 14th, obviously with Judge being 6.0. Last season, it was Judge himself at 4.6. In 23, it was Acuna at 3.5. In 22, it was Judge again at 3.7. And in 21, it was Vlad Jr. at 3.6. So again, on a completely different level than even the league leaders at this point in previous seasons. And he is the 3rd Yankees player ever with a game-tying homer in the 9th inning of a 1-0 game against the Red Sox. Obviously, they went on to lose that game, but it is a fun little nugget because the 2 other people to do it were Matt Holliday and Babe Ruth. 1921 to 2017 was the span that it happened. And then lastly, on Judge, that 6.0 wins above replacement. It struck me, I was like, well, the only guy that even has a chance to have been close to this, I think, in recent baseball history or in the span that I'm able to look at would be Barry Bonds, right? He's the guy who ruins all the stats or who shows up on all these recent things. And so I went back and I was like, all right, year he hit 73 home runs. Well, he had 4.9 wins above replacement on June 14th. I was like, oh, damn. All right. So Judge is like way beyond that. I was like, all right, what about the next year? Actually, the year he didn't hit 73, but the next year, that was actually Bonds' best ever adjusted OPS in a single season. You can believe that. Better than a 73 homer season.
5.3.
5.6. So it was close. It was close, but still not there.
No.
And then the next year, or I'm sorry, he skips 03. And then in 04, as you know, the 120 intentional walk season.
Yep. 232, 120.
4.6 wins above replacement on June 14th. So even the great Barry Bonds, some of this is Judge, some of this is other stuff, but the great Barry Bonds obviously was not even pacing at something like this. So shout out to Aaron Judge. Those are the Nuggs. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Wow.
Aaron Judge's offense bringing down the house at a historic clip. It is going to be a summer to remember, a summer to watch at least, but a summer to remember, no doubt. While Aaron Judge's offense is bringing down the house, with the lack of offense for the Nationals, Jayhay, they've decided to bring up the house. That's right. We have just bashed the Washington Nationals and what they're not doing, and they said, you know what?
Give them a little love. All right,
I'm going to give them a little love. I think we got to give them a little love.
Is this your final thought, or are you're just saying this?
No, it's not my final thought, but they're bringing up, it's one of my final thoughts. They're bringing up Brady House to see if this can't help spark the offense, if this can't help rectify some of the woes that Davey Martinez has been pointing out. So their third baseman is getting the call up. And as we sit right now, Brady House, all of 22 years old, sitting at a 304, 353, 519 slash line. Mm-hmm. He's got 13 homers in 65 games this year at AAA. And when you think about where he's headed, well, this is how he grades out. The hit grade, this is on the 20 to 80 scale. The hit grade at 45. The power projected 60. Runs 50. The arm 60. Fielding 55. Overall 55, which is well above average. So maybe that can be something that ignites this offense and gets these players, not the coaches, Jayhay, but gets the players to start getting things done. And my final thought for the day is, as a player, Jayhay, all you want to know is that you're wanted. It's one of those feelings.
As a podcaster too, obviously it applies
for sure. For sure. You just want to know that you got a place to fit in. You got a place, and it's a group of people who appreciate you, who respect you, who want to communicate with you so that they can pull the best out of you and provide an opportunity for you to be the best version of yourself. And I want to tip my cap to Buster Posey for going out and making that happen, at least on paper, to one of the game's brightest talents. Rafael Devers, you have been welcomed to San Francisco with open arms. Enjoy the Bay. Enjoy McCovey Cove. I'll be watching for the splashdowns. Enjoy the chowder. You are now in a place that appreciates you. You are now with a team that seemingly respects you and is looking forward to everything that you are willing to do to just simply help the team win. Because I know that's the type of player you are, Rafi. Welcome to San Francisco.
Well, we would be remiss. That's very classy of you. We would be remiss to not get some final thoughts from Mr. Jake Yossi.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, but obviously straight shooters, right? Yeah, Jake's not going to be recorded on this podcast for technical reasons, but he wanted me to relay that he said this was a really difficult listen for Red Sox as a Red Sox fan. But not because we weren't, shooting it straight and just calling it what it is, but because we were doing that.
Down the middle. So if you guys, when we called for Jake, if you heard crickets chirping during that time, Jake, well, you can understand his pain.
That's right.
So lay off, Jake.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Another pod. It was great to have you on. Thanks for joining my podcast. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for reaching out. I am honored to be the reoccurring guest here. I appreciate the opportunity. It's not every day that I'm able to operate and work outside of the regime that I work with, but I don't want it to be public information. I don't support the Jayhay Hussein regime, but I am here in your time of need, and it was more than a pleasure. More than a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Obviously Jake and I will talk it out, and we'll see whether you're a fit for Wednesday. Okay. But yeah, either way, it was a lot of fun, and a really nice follow up to the legitimate stars that we had on Thursday. So,
no doubt.
Yep, thanks for popping in, and wow, what a pod! You and I just did 2 hours, or damn near close.
That's what we do. It is what we do. So yeah, sorry about it, Red Sox fans. I'd say pick up right where you left off, because you guys feel like you're starting to hit your stride right now, really coming together as a team, coming together as a team, really unifying as just together, all your players and stars together. So that's a good sign moving forward. We will be back on Wednesday. Not sure if Jared is going to climb out of the hole that he's hiding in right now. Otherwise, it will be Jayhay and I again on Wednesday. We'd love to treat you and Jake as well if he wants to chime in and record. It'd be great to see his lovely face as well. But until then, that is all we have. We will see you next time. We out.